It was a risk, and I think I learned that I like that. You should feel a little bit of uncomfortableness. You should feel a little bit of, calculated danger, That's what acting is about. It's about taking chances. You're gonna fall down. Will you get up? How do you get all that? That all played in. And I decided, yeah, I'm gonna get on board with this. Hello, I'm Brendan Fraser, and this is the timeline of my career.
Thanks for the lift, Coach. I need your bag.
I borrowed my mom's car to travel down the coast to Los Angeles. And shortly thereafter, I went up on a movie called School Ties.
So where you from, Green?
Scranton, PA.
Scranton? It's like in America, kind of.
No shit.
So you know you're the very first ringer St. Matt's ever hired.
Hey, Dylan.
No, he is. That's something of an honor. Aren't you honored, Green?
Well, I haven't really thought about it.
I come from a background in theater, and everything I did was, for the last row. And I saw that Matt had this uncanny ability to handle dialogue as he spoke it sounded like he had written it. And he had an energy level that cued me to match pitch if you want to get to the next round.
I know who cheated.
Who?
It was Green.
What?
Yeah, Green. I saw him do it.
You're a liar! I saw him cheat!
God, what a squirmer. Just admit it.
I gave him the choice of confessing. It isn't gonna work!
Hey, I saw you dead!
Whether he knew he did that or not, or I was like, copying his work or however you want to look at it, without Matt, I would have a career, but I don't know what it would be. What I saw in Matt in that moment, I got a real quick lesson in honing down a performance and letting it work for the audience of one, that piece of glass over there, instead of a house of 500 or whatever. I had gone in to read for a teen comedy that was being produced by a branch of Disney called Hollywood Pictures. George Saloom was producing it, Les Mayfield directing, and these were guys who had just come off of doing the innovative new thing in filmmaking, which was behind the scenes of Spielberg pictures. So they were on, I think, one or two of the Indiana Jones pictures. And they really impressed Spielberg, and they got their directing start that way. And their choice to make a movie was about a frozen caveman come to life. Speaking of theater background, I went into this audition knowing little about what one should do in that situation, and the dialogue was light, and I figured, well, Link the thought-out caveman is basically the new guy in town. He's trying to fit in, and he wants to belong. He doesn't know what a doorknob is until someone shows him how it works. Everything's brand new to him. There was something about painting on glass with ketchup and mustard squirters. I don't recall, but whatever I got up to, it left an impression. And I went off and did School Ties, started getting the call saying, do our movie, please do this movie. And I was being a little bit precious, to be honest, because I was in School Ties. It was, thoughtful drama. And in my thinking, I thought, well, I can't kind of throw anything away early on. I don't want to confuse people about who I am. And it was Keith Wester, who was our sound mixer, who was just a gentleman. He's got the headphones on. He hears everything. If everyone knows what's going on the set, ask the sound guys. They hear everything. He said it's a bird in the hand, worth two in the nest. What? You can do this and you can do that. It's a good calling card to show both. Think of the masks, comedy, tragedy. And well, you're right. So I finished the film School Ties. The offer was still there, and I took a leap. It was a risk, and I think I learned that I like that. You should feel a little bit of uncomfortableness. You should feel a little bit of, calculated danger, That's what acting is about. It's about taking chances. You're gonna fall down. Will you get up? How do you get all that? That all played in. And I decided, yeah, I'm gonna get on board with this. And that's how it began, honestly. Everything else we did during the movie was just a lark. I was working with Sean Astin and Pauly Shore, and it was crazy 90s comedy. A lot of the jokes, I don't know if they still hold up, but hey, it was sort of a piece of cinema history when you go back and look at it compared to what we make now and today. And also, it had resonance with an audience at that time who were used to teen comedies in the 1980s, really having a real specific formula. And I think that film, Encino Man, was kind of like the swan song or the last of that genre to really embrace the high school trope, nerd become hero. And of course, it flipped it upside down, and everyone loved it. From what I can tell, almost everyone. It's the story of Odysseus. Stay with me. It's just a guy who wants to go home. He's got to go through a lot to get there. It's like the storyline and the plot of so many of our favorite films, books, music, all that culture. That was my initial heady, scholastic approach. Other than that, yeah, I went and I lifted weights until it hurt, and I barfed and did it again and checked my vanity at the door and my pride sometimes and jumped in fully knowing that, well, if I was going to fall down, at least there'd be like a safety line on me. On this one in George of the Jungle, considering it's a guy who smashes into trees. And you can't not say that the guy doesn't confront his obstacles.
George not feels so good.
I did know that it really put some wind in my sails, and it made me feel like, well, I do have some interesting new choices here. And again, now that I have that sort of comedy tragedy aspect that the Sage Master of Sound told me earlier, I guess I got to find out what I can do to counterbalance something that's easily digestible, mass consumed, a comedy like that, with something that really spoke to me, that got me in the feels. And that was a film called Gods and Monsters.
Good morning. My name is Whale. This is my house. And your name is?
Boone. Clay Boone.
I couldn't help but notice your tattoo. That motto, death before dishonor. What does it mean?
It just means that I was a Marine.
Ah, the Marines. I suppose you served in Korea.
Sir Ian McKellen was attached, who was just a champion of the profession. That wasn't lost to me when I was a student in college, because I probably wore out the Betamax copy of Acting Shakespeare in the library that he did for BBC, whichever number, because it was required viewing. And what Ian was doing was making iambic pentameter and heightened text in prose so easily accessible to the audience and the listener, it almost sounded as if he was just thinking and speaking his own thoughts, let alone we know that they are written by the genius William Shakespeare. Not far removed from what I remember hearing, in a way, what Matt was doing back in the day.
So then you did have a wife?
Or a husband, depending on which of us you asked. My friend David. Lived here for many years.
They have a lunch and they come to an understanding across a long dining table, each seated at one side, that they can see each other eye to eye. And I remember him playing that scene, and maybe I willed it to be, but I felt like, okay, this is someone who unabashedly is a hero and influence in my life. And the scene was about, we understand each other now, do we? For whichever reasons we learn later, but he really made me feel like I did have a seat at that table that I deserved to be at. No one could have let me know that and feel more accepted than he did in that moment.
You don't think of me that way, do you?
And what way would that be?
Well, the way that I look at women.
Don't be ridiculous. I know a real man like you would break my neck if I so much as laid a finger on you.
I remember on one occasion before we went to do, I think it was the confrontation scene with fighting and I'm not your monster. And we were running lines and he's, let's say the words. So, he wanted to make sure I knew my lines. We spoke the sides together and he said something to me that was certainly for my benefit. Not that he was trying to bestow knowledge on me or show me the way or tell me how to. He said, it has to be as if it's the first and last time that you will ever do this. And that made a lot of sense to me.
I am not your monster!
It made a lot of sense to me. And I hung on to that adage and I've repeated it to myself many times, certainly whilst doing The Whale. I knew that.
We are in serious trouble.
Audiences knew the mummy to be an old guy wrapped in bandages with his arms outstretched, stumbling quietly, going, oh, and always catching whoever he's chasing by walking while they run and smack into a wall. And then, the terror. And those were brilliant for what they were for that time. And so that was, the perception of how that film should be made. Well, surprise, it was quite the opposite. Steve Summers' opinion was, this is the Terminator mummy. Ain't nothing stopping this. What are we gonna do to right the world? And that was the energy he brought to it. And who knows why all the pieces line up the way they do, but it struck a chord with audiences. This is something that they wanted to see. They wanted to be taken on a thrill ride. They wanted to feel a little bit dangerous. They wanted it to be fun, and then they wanted to do it again. So with that combination, hey, we did it again. The Mummy Returns. And then we did it again in the third one, but we're not gonna talk about that if we don't want to. There was a stunt with a rope around the neck and a stuntman doing it with proper safety gear and a wide shot. Then my turn, and to match, put the rope around the really. There was a stuntman holding the tension on the rope, and it wasn't selling to match what the stuntman did. So director asked, can we pull the tension up a little bit? And we're just doing this once. And it was kind of uncomfortable. It's not nice to have strangulation, I learned. Anyway, what happened basically was I went up on the balls of my feet like a ballet dancer, which I am not, then tried to get on my toes because the tension kept going up. I couldn't sustain it, but the man upstairs didn't know that. So I relaxed back into my feet and the tension. So between the down of my body and the tension up, I remember seeing the camera just come around, and then it was as if a giant volume switch went, it irised. And next I knew the world was sideways. I thought, that's curious. Ow, there's dirt in my mouth and my ear, and my arm is twisted all weird. Man, my shin really hurt. And everyone's quiet, whereas before they had the extra screaming and shouting, and suddenly, pin drop quiet. And I thought, what happened? And stunt coordinator ran up and he's going, Brendan, wake up. And he's like, hey, you just joined the club. Same thing happened to Mel on Braveheart. I'm like, yay? I'm gonna go home. They didn't send me home for the rest of the day. But look, that's just the physics of it. There's no blame attached to any of this. If anything, it's my own stupidity for not checking it out, thinking myself to be invincible, which I've learned you're not. I go to fan conventions, so they show up dressed as the characters. People roll their sleeves up and show me like their calf with my mug tattooed on it. It's a little weird, but it's popular. I can attest. What people love about it is the romance, the mystery, the broad scope of it. The number of young women who I've met over the years who've told me, I've become an Egyptologist. I've gone into archaeology. I have become a historian because this film inspired me from a young age. None of us ever anticipated hearing, or maybe couldn't appreciate it at that time, but I do now. I'm so grateful because, hey, it's a movie. Win, lose, or draw, it's always gonna be there. And your hope is it lands with people. It stays, it changes them, it inspires them in some way. This one did. So how's school? You're a senior, right?
You actually care?
Well, of course I care. I pester your mom for information as often as she'll give it to me. The Whale was shot during the height of COVID before vaccines came out. Everyone lived each day as if, like Ian said, it could be your last. The internal world that I approached that with was, well, if there, conceivably is no tomorrow, I'm doing this as if it's the last time I will ever be invited to do this job ever again. And it stripped away all the actory pretensions and insecurities and fears and made the story that much more personal, considering it was 4 or 5 characters in one room and a pretty humble piece of writing based on Samuel D. Hunter's stage play. Darren's approach to that was a masterclass for me in acting, which is to leave everything you thought you knew about how to do this and find out what you can get from one another to support the performance. The only way that character could have succeeded in the way that it did was not just because I was working with Hong Chow, not just because I was working with Sadie Sink, not just because Adrian Moreau was doing the prosthetics, the cumbersome bodysuit, which was uncanny, and the technology was become standardized since, but Adrian was on the cutting edge, the tip of the spear, using 3D to create makeup appliances that are realistic, could last a day, et cetera, et cetera. All of those technical things put together, it gave to the world of that film just a simplicity in the mundane and the sadness of a man who has certain regrets in his life and the reckoning he finds himself with. And the story itself is not an old or unusual one, seeking to reconnect with, if somehow hopefully ameliorate, a father's relationship with their child. Is really the heart of that, and will it or will it not succeed? That's what that story was. When that film came to Japan, I should mention, no one made mention, ever, any journalist anyone I spoke to, about the issue of Charlie's obesity. Didn't hear about it. That's all you hear about from any of the other journalists. That's what they want to talk about. Okay, that's fair, and that's an interesting conversation, but if you want to have it. But the impression that it made to the Japanese public was what it means to finally get to say all the things that you wanted to say to your kid, but you know it's too late, and what you're saying, albeit correct, is too much too late. Why didn't you do this years ago? And is there the remote possibility of a chance at reconciliation before time runs out?
You don't have to be angry at the whole world. You can just be angry at me.
Okay, you know what? You can't throw me away like I'm a piece of garbage and then suddenly just want to be my dad 8 years later. You left me for your boyfriend. It's that simple. And if you've been telling yourself anything different, then you're lying to yourself.
The pinnacle, the apotheosis of that movie is, will he get this story out to her? Will he make his confessional, his reconciliation before time runs out and before he literally loses his life before her eyes? And that race to get it out, the urgency of that was palpable. And I just gotta say this to Sadie Sink, and we already know this. She's starred on Broadway already, and deservedly so. I had a front row seat to watch Sadie blossom before my eye. I had the best seat in the house to watch this kid, young woman, show us how natural and good and talented, and I was hanging on to her with my fingernails, figuratively, but just for the sheer authenticity that she brings to the work that she does. And that gave me so much more context to be able to do my job as best as I could. Acting works best when you're making your partner or whoever you're working with look great. You know, you want to set that ball up, that volleyball, so they can spike it. She's one of those players.
I'm sorry for leaving you. I was in love, and I left you behind. You did not deserve that.
I don't
know how I could have done such a thing.
I felt astonishment. I was in company of nominees who were incredible actors. Could have gone any way, as far as I could tell. And ask me on whatever day, maybe I would have picked someone in among that group apart from myself, and it would be the correct choice. I appreciate how lucky I was to be standing there. That's what primarily was my good fortune. But I also needed to acknowledge that, if you're gonna be an actor, it's not an easy job. It's a trajectory that is a corkscrew, sometimes worse. And it's not enough to just stay the course and tough it out, because you still have to be accepted. And just as with the kid from School Ties, he had his nose pressed up against the glass, wanting to be a part of the good thing beyond it, but was disallowed. And I had to acknowledge that I have felt that way, and I was able to break the glass. And for what it's worth, I wake up with bruises. I think I pinch myself in my sleep, to tell you the truth.
I demand to confer privately with Mr. Burkhart. This is unheard of. Ernest Burkhart is my client. The rules prohibit this. I demand the opportunity to speak with Mr. Burkhart. This man cannot represent both the defendant and the witness. It is a conflict. He has been missing for 2 months.
That's Martin Scorsese. He loves actors. He moves furniture around during rehearsal, loves to rehearse. We got on Zoom calls, and he let me know he wants this lawyer who is an amalgamation of many different lawyers. And he said he has to be forceful and overbearing and large. I want him powerful. And of course, you're gonna, yes, sir. I still had a bit of the giddy, I can't believe I'm working in a Martin Scorsese movie going on. But then again, so did everybody. So did John Lithgow. We would sit in the bus in the heat of Oklahoma, driving between camps or wherever we were, and John would be like, acting is hard. He's not wrong.
They beat you. And they tortured you.
Oh, no, they didn't. But they did keep me up for days.
No! They beat you. They beat you.
Yes, they beat me, sir.
Thank you.
You know, on off-camera lines for Leo, he would tell me, just let him have it. And so I did, and you'll never know it or see it, and you shouldn't, but I did let loose with a flurry of vitriol towards Leo, and cut, and he said, that's not true. I'm sorry, did not mean it. He told me to, and Leo was like, I know, it's Marty. But that's what he wanted. Martin was unafraid to put a joystick in the actors and make them do his bidding like that. And you absolutely feel privileged to be playing that game. If I have to guess, you sell people.
No.
No.
We sell emotion.
Oh, how?
We play roles in the clients' lives.
After doing The Whale, it's not, well, I've done it, I've arrived. It's okay, well, what's next? And I wanted to make a polar opposite turn, another sort of dogleg off into career choices that are maybe least of what you would expect or anticipate that an actor would do from whatever he did from the time before. And I think that's, diversity is important, of course, but hey, it'd be great if you had that material to choose from. I was lucky enough that I did, and I did see this script for this curious film, which was about surrogacy in Japan, using family members to stand in for one another, which on the surface could seem quite corny or fanciful or pejorative even, but I learned from meeting Hikari that it serves a purpose. It's okay to pretend. Sometimes it can really fulfill and nurture a need that humans have when they're bereft of company or they feel like they're not complete for reasons being that they can't enjoy all the challenges that they had, and to be able to make this film, which does play into satisfying the need that these clients have for people to stand in their lives, whereas it would have had been impossible in reality. And right in the middle is a place called Minnesota.
Is that where my grandparents lived?
No. My mom did. My dad wasn't around that much. The pretend, the make-believe of it all is what's most important. And I also love that, hey, it's about this profession of acting, which on the surface, it has kind of a hackneyed sort of adjustment to it when telling someone, oh, I'm an actor, especially when starting one's career off. Oh, really? What have you done? Oh, no, I don't know. I never saw. Oh, really? Oh, isn't that cute? Oh, that's cute. Yeah. The feeling that, yes, acting is important. It does fulfill the need, and it does have service to those who really just want to feel good about what they're missing, even if for only a little while, even if it's make-believe, until in the case of Hikari's film, the lines blur and the roles of a lifetime go from what the expectation was to something completely opposite. Being an actor, you have to have courage, because without courage, you can't be brave. You can't be brave unless you have an obstacle, something you fear, something in your way. And the only way you're going to get through it around it, over it, is with courage. And it doesn't mean that you're lion-hearted. It just means that you have to have the strength to at least try.